Namaste, my friends. I see the divine in you. I was in the shower this morning and I was thinking about if Donald Duck had a conversation with Mickey Mouse, do you think either of them could convince the other that there is such a thing as a three-dimensional universe? I mean, they're two-dimensional flat cartoon characters. Yeah? So the first one might say, yeah, there's 3 dimensions and we only live in 2. And the second one might say, you're crazy, show me the proof. But since they live in a 2-dimensional reality, how could they show the proof of a 3-dimensional reality? They'd have to be in a 3-dimensional reality in order to prove it existed. The proof is actually beyond their reach. So what's this got to do with life, the meaning of life, and reality in general? Well, we assume that we're the most intelligent creature on the planet, and academically, since it's only humans that pass exams, we are. But academic intelligence is not the only kind of intelligence. But because we prize it so highly, we measure everything by academic methods. So the way that we test most things scientifically is called empirically, and that means if you can measure it, you start off with a theory, you create a test, you get your results, you measure your results, you do your calculations, and if they agree with your theory, then you say that you've empirically proven your theory, so your theory works. And that's the way we test things. But when we talk about subjects like God and creation, we make so many assumptions. We believe that it is something that exists within the realm of the 3D world that we live, and that we can simply apply empirical measuring methods and decide whether God exists or not. But that's as daft as Donald Duck asking Mickey Mouse for 2-dimensional proof of a 3-dimensional reality. If one of them could produce some sort of evidence, neither of them would understand it. I've been listening to these scientists talking about M theory and quantum mechanics, and the M theory people tell us that there are at least 11 dimensions, if not 22, and another theory says there might be an infinite number of dimensions. So I think in 3D. So when I heard that there's more than 3 dimensions, I started going, well, where is it? I can't see it. And of course, that's like Mickey Mouse and Donald Duck saying, what's this 3D? It's rubbish. There's no such thing. And yet the pencil mysteriously arrives from somewhere and draws them in 2D, and they never question it. And we are here in this 3D realm with no awareness of what creates us. I was thinking about the whole question of what existed before creation, and we don't have any words to describe it. And I was thinking that maybe it was like swimming in pea soup, that everything was the same. It was a unity, it was just pure energy, because we know all the atoms in the universe are made from energy. So we know that before atoms were made, the energy must have existed. Well, that's what we assume. But then we think in 3 dimensions, and we tap into another dimension we call time, which means 4. But could 4D explain 11D? I mean, could Mickey Mouse and Donald Duck come up with a theory that explains a 3-dimensional universe? If they did, it would only be a theory. They'd never actually been able to step into it and experience it. So I realised that what existed before creation must be an earlier version of creation, if you want to look at it chronologically, that is, in time sequence. And I used to think that God became the universe. It was a quote from Paramahansa Yogananda, but you can reason that out from relativity. E equals mc squared, therefore, before there was atoms, there must have been energy, therefore God must be the energy. that creates the atoms. The fact that the atoms are so diverse in nature and so abundant and multitudinous and exquisite is absolute proof that there's an intelligence that caused it all. Because to create diversity out of unity, out of one thing, which is energy, would require intelligence to create such a different way of expressing energy. So there's 128 atoms in the periodic table, or there was when I was at school, and they're all made of one thing, but they're all different. So to me, that's God's calling card saying, hello, there's intelligence behind this mechanism. So I was in the shower and I started to think, I'm assuming that before now there must have been before, and that state before must have been what led to this, because we believe in cause and effect. So cause is followed by effect, and that's how we think. But that's a 3D way of thinking. And the truth is, we don't know. And there's no way of proving it because it's beyond us to prove. So it suddenly occurred to me that although we think that I think the mechanism that God created the universe, that's the tools he used to create it. They say God created the heavens and the earth. I think that he used the Big Bang. At the start of the universe, there was a Big Bang and everything exploded outwards from a unity. Well, physicists call it a unity, and the ancient scriptures talk about a unity, the oneness of. So what I know is that whatever's going on is controlled by intelligence, but I can't say that before the Big Bang the universe wasn't exactly the way it is now. The Big Bang could just be one giant sand clock that, you've got a chamber at the top and a chamber at the bottom, and the sand trickles through the bit in the middle from one chamber to the next. And it could be it's already a universe that's coming through. We don't know. I mean, this is the point. We just don't know, and we can never know. We can guess at it, and it's great fun. Yeah. But none of it proves whether God exists or not. Now, the problem is, if we say there is no God, you've got to say, well, what is God? What are you talking about? And there's so many definitions of what God is, but as soon as you define God, God is no longer infinite. You've made God finite because you've made God definable. I think we would all agree, though, that God is intelligence. Now, if we take that as said, God is intelligence, the supreme intelligence, then the nature of the universe would have to be pretty clever. Wouldn't you agree it is? I would. So that suggests that some intelligence caused a clever universe to come into existence. You're never going to get a Mr. God appear on a cloud. It doesn't happen. But it is implicit that there is intelligence behind the cleverness of the universe, or else how would it have arisen out of a unity, all this diversity? It has to have come by some kind of design. I was trying to get a definition of intelligence years ago because I wrote a little book called Healing the Barcode, and part of it I needed to have a definition of intelligence. So I asked everybody I knew, and some of these people have got quite impressive qualifications, university type stuff. Nobody would give me a definition. So I sat down and I thought, well, if you do an IQ test, it's supposed to measure your intelligence, your reasoning power. And one of the things that an IQ test asks you to do is to look at a sequence of things and then guess what comes next. So if you can spot the sequence, if you can discern the sequence, you can then calculate the next move, and then you'll get a tick in your on your exam sheet. So I would say the intelligence is the ability to perceive order. But then the other side is also true. If you come into a room and it's messy, and you take sticks and you put big sticks on one side leaning against the wall, and then smaller ones and smaller ones and smaller ones, you can create order. You can create, you know, a pattern which is intelligently understandable. So I said, well, intelligence must be the ability generally to create or perceive order. And then what hit me was a garden sieve, you know, that you get the stones out of your soil with, creates order. It separates the big bits from the little bits. You throw those on the tip. You put the soil in the ground and grow your crop. And I thought, but a garden sieve isn't intelligent. Well, it depends on what level you're talking. In a sense, every atom is a mark of genius that creates that sieve. But what it does is not in itself cleverness of the sieve, it's cleverness of the designer to create the mechanism. So a mechanism that creates order, to me, implies a mind behind it. And that, to me, is my proof of God. I may have more on this. In fact, you can bank on it. I'm going to stop. Thank you for listening. Namaste. God bless you all.